There are times in life when everything feels like it's falling apart. Doors close, prayers seem unanswered, and darkness weighs heavily on your soul. You look around and nothing seems to make sense. You find yourself asking, "Where are you, God?" You cry out in desperation, hoping for a sign, a breakthrough, a miracle. And just when you think about giving up, something shifts. The impossible becomes possible. The storm that seemed poised to destroy you suddenly clears, and light breaks through. But what if I told you that God has already set things in motion for you, that He has a plan far beyond what you can imagine, that your situation is about to change and nothing can stop it? Stay with me, because what I'm about to share could be the confirmation you've been waiting for. God operates in realms beyond human understanding. He sees the end from the beginning, and His plans are not confined by time or circumstances. When He speaks, creation obeys. When He moves, barriers fall. When He moves, barriers fall before Him. There are divine moments in life when God chooses to shift everything in your favor, and when that moment comes, nothing in this world can prevent what He has already ordained. The enemy wants you to believe that this is the end, that your struggle will never cease, that your prayers have gone unheard. But listen closely. What you see right now is not the full picture. What you feel is not the final reality. There is a spiritual battle raging over your destiny, and God is working behind the scenes. The delay is not denial. The silence is not abandonment. He is setting the stage for something greater than you could ever imagine. Consider the Israelites standing before the Red Sea. Behind them, Pharaoh's army was closing in, and before them was an impassable body of water. To the human eye, it was over. There was no escape, but God had already prepared a way before they even realized it. He did not panic. He didn't reconsider His plan. He had already positioned Moses at that exact moment, with that exact staff, to stretch out his hands and part the sea. The miracle was never in question. It was simply waiting for divine timing. Your life is no different. The struggles you face may seem insurmountable, but God has already written the final chapter. The breakthrough is already scheduled. The miracle is already on its way. But here's the challenge. Can you trust Him during the waiting? Can you keep believing even when the evidence tells you otherwise? Faith is not about seeing the way. It's about trusting the one who makes the way. Abraham was promised a son, but years passed and nothing happened. Sarah's womb remained barren, and doubt began to creep in. But did the delay cancel God's promise? No. When the time was right, Isaac was born. Not according to human effort, but according to divine timing. If Abraham had given up, he would have walked away from the fulfillment of what God had spoken. But he held on, and at the appointed time the promise came to pass. Right now, God is calling you to hold on. The enemy whispers lies, but God's voice speaks truth. Your situation is not beyond His reach. Your need is not beyond His provision. Your pain is not beyond His healing. Every time you thought you were forgotten, every time you felt abandoned, every time you wondered if He still heard you, He was working, preparing, aligning, and orchestrating. The right people, the right connections, and the right circumstances are all being arranged for the exact moment that God has already determined. In the book of Daniel, there was a moment when Daniel prayed, but the answer didn't come immediately. Days passed and weeks passed. It seemed as if heaven was silent. But what Daniel didn't know was that from the very moment he prayed, his request was heard. The delay wasn't in God's response, it was in the spiritual realm, where opposition tried to block what was already His. The angel told Daniel, "From the first day you set your heart to understand, your words were heard, and I have come because of your words." Do you understand what this means? Your prayers are not ignored. Your cries are not unnoticed. From the moment you called out to God, He moved on your behalf. But sometimes there is a process in the unseen realm. There is resistance that must be broken. Barriers must be removed. But God's word cannot be stopped. His promise cannot be revoked. The very thing that seemed delayed is actually right on schedule. You may not see it yet, but the evidence is already in motion. The opportunities you thought were lost are about to reappear. The relationships that seemed broken beyond repair are about to be restored. The doors that were shut in your face are about to open wider than you imagined. The sickness that drained your strength is about to be overturned by divine healing. The financial struggles that burdened you are about to be replaced with supernatural provision. You serve a God who does not operate by human logic. He fed thousands with 5 loaves and 2 fish. He turned water into wine. He made a virgin conceive. He raised the dead after 4 days in the tomb. If He can do all that, why would you ever doubt His ability to move in your situation? Lazarus was in the grave. The people had already given up. The mourners had already accepted defeat. But when Jesus arrived, He didn't see a dead man. He saw a divine opportunity. He spoke one command, and death lost its grip. What was impossible became a testimony. God is speaking over your situation right now. The thing that seems dead is about to live again. The opportunity that seemed lost is about to be resurrected. The hope that seemed crushed is about to be restored. The enemy has tried to keep you bound in fear, doubt, and anxiety, but he has no power over what God has ordained. There is a shift happening in the spirit. Chains are breaking. Delays are being lifted. Supernatural favor is being released, but you have to believe. You have to stand firm. You have to hold on just a little longer. The miracle is already set in motion, and no force in hell can stop what God has declared over your life. God has never failed. His track record is flawless. Every promise He has made has either come to pass or is in the process of being fulfilled. What makes you think He will abandon you now? What makes you believe that your situation is beyond His reach? Every great testimony in Scripture was preceded by a moment of impossibility. Every miracle was born out of a circumstance that seemed hopeless. The Red Sea had to be in front of Israel before it could be parted. The fiery furnace had to be heated before the Son of God appeared in it. Lazarus had to die before he could be raised. Your current struggle is not a sign. The very thing you have been crying about, the very situation that has caused you sleepless nights, is about to become the stage for God's glory. But there is one requirement: you must believe. You must resist the urge to give up. You must silence the voices of doubt and fear. Do you remember the woman with the issue of blood? For 12 years she suffered. She spent all her money on doctors, yet her condition grew worse. The world had given up on her. She was considered unclean, an outcast, a hopeless case. But something inside of her refused to accept defeat. She had heard about Jesus and she made a decision. If I can just touch the hem of His garment, I will be healed. That was not ordinary faith. That was faith that refused to let circumstances dictate the outcome. That was faith that defied medical reports, societal rejection, and personal suffering. That was faith that pushed through the crowd, reaching for the miracle she knew belonged to her. The moment she touched Him, power flowed. Jesus stopped in His tracks and declared, "Your faith has made you whole." That same faith is required of you right now. You may have been suffering for years. You may have exhausted your resources, your strength, and your hope. But if you can just reach out, if you can just believe, if you can just hold on a little longer, your miracle is already in motion. The power of God is not limited by time. It is not restricted by circumstances. It is not hindered by human understanding. The same Jesus who healed her is the same Jesus who is reaching out to you right now. There is a divine alignment happening even as you listen. The things that seem stuck are about to move. The prayers that seemed unanswered are about to manifest. The doors that refuse to open are about to be unlocked. But let me warn you, when God moves, it doesn't always look like what you expect. The path he chooses is often different from the one you imagined. The process he takes you through may not make sense. Look at Joseph. He had a dream of greatness, a vision of divine promotion, but the path to that promise was filled with betrayal, slavery, false accusations, and imprisonment. If Joseph had judged God's faithfulness by his circumstances, he would have lost hope. But what Joseph didn't see was that every trial, every setback, every delay was actually a step closer to the fulfillment of his destiny. What the enemy meant for harm, God was using for good. And when the moment came, when divine timing aligned with God's plan, Joseph's promotion was unstoppable. Joseph was taken from the prison to the palace in a moment. What had taken years to break him was reversed in a single instant. That is the incredible power of God. When he moves, it doesn't take decades. When he speaks, situations change immediately. One moment in God's presence can undo years of struggle, pain, and waiting. Your moment is coming. The enemy wants you to believe that the delay is a sign of denial. But I declare today, in the name of Jesus, that the delay is just preparation. God has not forgotten about you. He has not abandoned you. He hasn't changed his mind about you. Every tear you've cried, every prayer you've whispered, every sacrifice you've made, he has seen it all, and he is about to respond in a way that will leave no doubt that he alone is God. But you must get ready. When the Israelites were about to enter the promised land, God gave them a command: consecrate yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will do amazing things among you. In other words, prepare yourself, position yourself, because what's coming is greater than anything you've imagined. God isn't just going to do what you asked, he's going to exceed it. He's going to bless you in ways that will shock those who doubted you. He's going to open doors that no one can shut. He's going to restore what was stolen, rebuild what was broken, and redeem what was lost. But he's looking for faith. He's looking for someone who will say, God, I don't understand it, but I trust you. I don't see the way, but I believe you are making one. I don't know how, but I know you will. That kind of faith turns the impossible into a testimony. So I ask you today, can you hold on a little longer? Can you trust him even when nothing makes sense? Can you believe that your miracle is already on its way? Because I assure you, in the realm of the Spirit, things have already shifted. The battle has already been won. The chains have already been broken. And in just a little while, you will see with your own eyes what God has been preparing all along. You need to understand that the greatest miracles don't always come in the form of sudden dramatic changes. Sometimes the miracle is the shift in your heart, the renewal of your strength, the deepening of your faith. Before God brings you into your breakthrough, he prepares you for it. He strengthens you so that when the blessing comes, you can carry it. He refines you so that when the door opens, you are ready to walk through it. Think about David. He was anointed as king, yet he spent years tending sheep. He defeated Goliath, yet he spent years running from Saul. He had the promise, but the process seemed to contradict it. But do you know what was happening? God was building him in the secret place. God was strengthening his character, refining his heart, and preparing him for the throne. Because a promise given too soon can become a burden rather than a blessing. Maybe that's what God is doing with you. Maybe the delay isn't a denial, but a season of preparation. Maybe the hardship isn't a punishment, but a refining fire. Maybe the closed door isn't rejection, but divine redirection. Because when God moves, He does it in a way that leaves no room for doubt. He does it in a way that silences the enemy and magnifies His glory. And that's why you must not give up now. You are closer than you think. The enemy wants you to quit right before the breakthrough. He wants you to settle right before the promise is fulfilled. He wants you to lower your faith, accept defeat, and believe that nothing will change. But the devil is a liar. You serve the God who split the sea, who fed the 5,000, who raised the dead, who spoke the universe into existence. Your situation is not beyond His power. Your need is not greater than His provision. Do you know what activates miracles? It's faith combined with obedience. It's when you say, God, I trust you, and I will keep walking even when I do not see the way. It's when you choose to praise in the middle of the storm. It's when you refuse to bow to fear, when you refuse to let circumstances dictate your belief. Paul and Silas were thrown into prison. They had every reason to complain. They had every reason to question God, but instead they praised Him in the midnight hour. In the darkest moment, they lifted their voices in worship. And you know what happened? The prison shook. The chains fell off. The doors swung open. Because when you praise in the middle of your struggle, heaven responds. When you lift your voice in faith, chains break. I want you to understand that what you do in your waiting season determines what you will receive in your breakthrough season. If you complain, you prolong the process. If you doubt, you limit the flow of God's power. But if you remain steadfast, if you keep declaring His promises, if you continue to walk in obedience, nothing can stop what God has planned for you. Some of you have faced rejection after rejection, disappointment after disappointment. But God is saying to you today, I have not forgotten you. I have not abandoned you. I've been working behind the scenes, orchestrating things in your favor. Look at Hannah. She was barren for years. While others around her rejoiced in their blessings, she wept, she prayed, she waited. And when the time was right, she gave birth to Samuel, one of the greatest prophets in history. Had God answered her prayer sooner, she may not have been ready, but the moment of delay was actually a moment of divine timing. That's what's happening with you. What feels like a setback is actually a setup. What seems like a closed door is actually a divine redirection. What appears to be unanswered prayers are actually prayers being answered in a better way than you imagined. So do not grow weary. Do not let frustration take over. Keep pressing, keep believing, keep standing in faith, because when God moves, He does it suddenly. Joseph woke up one morning in a prison cell, thinking it was just another day. By the end of that same day, he was in the palace. One moment he was bound, the next he was elevated. That is the kind of God you serve, the God of sudden breakthroughs, the God of unexpected turnarounds, the God who makes a way where there is no way, the God who turns mourning into dancing, sorrow into joy, ashes into beauty. You do not have to understand how, you do not have to figure it out. All you need to do is trust, all you need to do is believe, because as surely as the sun rises, as surely as the seasons change, as surely as His word stands forever, your miracle is coming. The breakthrough is already in motion. The answer is already on its way. And when it happens, you will look back and see that every tear, every trial, every delay was worth it. Because God never fails. He never forgets. He never abandons His own. And He will never abandon you. You must recognize that every battle you've faced, every storm you've endured, and every tear you've cried has not been wasted. Heaven has recorded every moment of your struggle, and the Lord has been watching over you. The enemy wanted you to believe that God was silent, that He had forgotten you, that your prayers had gone unheard. But I declare to you today, God has been working in the unseen. He has been setting things in motion. He has been aligning people, opportunities, and divine appointments that will bring His perfect plan to pass in your life. The enemy does not attack what is not valuable. The reason you have faced so much resistance is because of the calling on your life. The reason the enemy has tried to discourage you, delay you, and distract you is because he knows that when you step into what God has for you, nothing will be able to stop you. The devil sees what you cannot see. Yet your future, your destiny, your purpose, that's why he's fought you so hard. That's why the pressure has been so intense. But what the enemy meant for evil, God is turning around for your good. You may not see the full picture yet, but God does. He knows the exact moment when things will shift. He knows the precise timing when your prayers will manifest. You've been waiting. And waiting can be hard. Waiting can feel like an eternity. But God is never late. His timing is not our timing, but it is always perfect. If He brought it to you too soon, it wouldn't be a blessing, it would be a burden. If He opened the door before you were ready, you might not be able to sustain what He's giving you. That's why the waiting season is necessary. It's a season of preparation, of pruning, of molding. It's a season where God is developing the strength, the character, and the faith you will need for the blessing He's about to release in your life. Think about Moses. He spent 40 years in the wilderness before stepping into his calling. Joseph endured 13 years of betrayal and hardship before stepping into his purpose. David was anointed king but spent years running for his life before he sat on the throne. Every great person in the Bible had a season of waiting. And if God made them wait, don't be discouraged if He is making you wait too. Your waiting season is not wasted. It is a setup for the miracle that is about to unfold. And when that miracle, it will happen in a way that will exceed your expectations, in a manner that will surpass everything you ever hoped for. You will witness it unfold in such a way that you'll know, without a doubt, it was God's hand at work. When God acts, He does it in a manner that leaves no space for human explanation. He does it in a way that brings glory to His name. It is God who opens doors that no one can close. It is God who makes a way when there seems to be no way. He is the one who parted the Red Sea when the enemy was closing in. He is the one who brought water out of a rock in a barren land. He is the one who fed thousands with just 5 loaves and 2 fish. He is the one who raises the dead, heals the sick, and restores what is broken. Do not limit what God can do in your life. Do not let past disappointments cause you to lower your hopes and dreams. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it won't happen. The same God who worked wonders for Abraham, Joseph, David, and Paul, and Silas is the same God today. The very thing that has been standing in your way is about to be removed. The wall that has been blocking your path is about to fall. The door that has been shut will soon swing wide open. The situation that once seemed impossible is about to turn in your favor. When God moves, every limitation is broken. Every stronghold is shattered. Every chain that has held you is destroyed. When God steps in, sickness has to go. When God steps in, depression must flee. When God steps in, lack is replaced by abundance. Fear is turned to faith and weakness becomes strength. Your story is not over. What God began in your life, He will finish. The enemy thought he had won. He thought the setbacks, the obstacles, and the pain would cause you to quit, but he was mistaken. What he failed to see is that through all of this, you have been getting stronger. Your faith has been growing. You have been preparing for what God promised you, and now the time is near. The moment is approaching. Heaven is about to release what has been waiting for you. The answer is on its way. The provision is being released. The miracle is already in motion. You don't have to see it to believe it. You don't have to feel it to know it's happening. All you need is trust. All you need is to keep walking in faith. What God has declared over your life cannot be stopped. What He has ordained for you cannot be taken away. What He has planned for you will come to pass. Stand firm, lift your head, and square your shoulders, because what's ahead of you is greater than what's behind you. What God is about to do will leave you speechless. It will be undeniable. It will be miraculous. And when it happens, you will know that it was God all along. You will look back on this season of difficulty and realize that every tear was watering the seeds of your breakthrough. You will see that every delay was a form of divine protection. Every door that closed was God's redirection. Every disappointment was preparing you for an appointment with destiny. What you thought was a setback was actually a setup. What seemed like rejection was God's way of leading you into something better. The Israelites stood at the Red Sea with Pharaoh's army closing in behind them. It looked like the end. It seemed like there was no way forward. But God had already planned their deliverance before they even realized they needed it. He told Moses to stretch out his staff, and in an instant the waters parted. The sea became a pathway, and what seemed impossible became possible. And when their enemies tried to follow, God closed the waters, drowning the very thing that had been chasing them. Do you understand what that means for you? The thing that has been chasing you, the fear, the struggles, the hardships, is about to be swallowed up. The storm that has been raging against you is about to be quieted. The chains that have been holding you are about to be broken. The enemy thought he had you trapped, but God has already made a way. You may not see it yet, but just like the Red Sea, your miracle is already in motion. God is about to part some things in your life. He is about to move obstacles that seemed immovable. He is about to open doors that no one can shut. And when He does it, it will not be because of your effort, your connections, or your qualifications. It will be because of His power, His favor, and His divine purpose for your life. You have been faithful in waiting. You've stood strong when it would have been easier to fall. You've held on when everything within you wanted to let go. Now, the God who sees your endurance, hears your prayers, and knows your pain is stepping in. The God who created the heavens and the earth, who spoke the universe into existence, and who holds time in His hands, is moving on your behalf. Some of you have been in a dry season, where nothing seems to work. But I hear the Spirit saying, the drought is over, the rain is coming, the abundance is coming, the breakthrough is coming. What you've been waiting for, what you've been believing for, is closer than you think. Do not lose heart now, do not give up. This is the moment when your faith must rise. This is the moment when you need to declare what you know, not just what you see. Faith is not about seeing, it's about believing. Abraham didn't see the promise immediately, but he believed. Joseph didn't see his dream come true for years, but he believed. The woman with the issue of blood didn't see her healing right away, but she believed. And because she believed, she pressed through the crowd, touched the hem of Jesus' garment, and was healed. Are you willing to press through? Are you willing to hold on a little longer? Are you willing to trust that God is faithful, even when everything seems unchanged? Because I know this, when the breakthrough comes, it will come suddenly. When the shift happens, it happens quickly. One day Joseph was in prison, and the next he was in the palace. One moment Peter was in a storm, and the next he was walking on water. One second Paul and Silas were in chains, and the next the prison doors flung open. God doesn't need years to change your situation. He doesn't need months. He doesn't even need days. He can change everything in an instant. In the blink of an eye, everything can shift. In a single moment, everything can align. You may be one prayer away. You may be one step of faith away. You may be one act of obedience away from stepping into the miracle God has prepared for you. Don't stop now. Don't turn back. You've come too far to quit. And when the miracle happens, when the door opens, when the favor comes, you will know it wasn't by your might, nor by your power, but by His Spirit. You will look back and say, if it wasn't for the Lord on my side, I wouldn't have made it. You will lift your hands in worship and declare, God did it. Everything you've been through, the struggles, the delays, the waiting, has been leading to this moment. The pain was not wasted. The delays were not pointless. God has been working behind the scenes, orchestrating every detail, aligning every step and positioning you for the miracle that is about to unfold. When the Israelites stood before the Red Sea, they saw no way forward, but God had already planned their deliverance. When Joseph was in prison, he had no idea he was just one step away from the palace. When Paul and Silas were chained in prison, they had no clue their praise was about to shake the foundations of their captivity. And now your moment is coming. Don't let fear make you doubt what faith has been building. Don't give up before you see the breakthrough. The same God who parted the sea, who raised the dead, who opened blind eyes is the same God working in your life today. Hold on, stand firm, keep believing, because when the miracle happens, you will look back and say, it was all worth it. God was making a way all along.